You had to be there.
Yeah,
you really had to be there. Hitchcockian, if you will.
Hitchcockian.
Hello, everyone.
Oh yeah, we got talked to. It's a guy going. Hey everybody, I'm Jonathan Doe. I'm a podcaster, YouTuber, and filmmaker.
And my name is Steven. I'm a filmmaker, special effects guy, and a stuntman.
I like collecting oddities, exploring true crime cases, and directing extreme cinema.
If you like blood, gore, creatures, and more, then we've got what you're looking for. You're watching Scream Time. Jonathan Doe.
Steven, how's it going?
It's good, dude.
Second episode of Scream Time.
Episode 2, baby.
And today we're talking about the legendary Blair Witch Project.
Similar to how I found out about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like we talked about in episode 1. I didn't see it until probably years after it came out. So my first memories of the Blair Witch were all the hype surrounding it. Like the whole controversy between is it real, is it fake? Like for years my mom thought this really happened. So for something to come out in 1999 and have that kind of an impact on audiences is pretty impressive.
I was totally sold on it, and I remember seeing the trailers for it, and like I'd always fall asleep like with the TV on, and I remember seeing the trailers coming on and be fucking terrified, like what the fuck, you know? I begged my dad, and he finally rented it from Blockbuster, and we watched it, and I fucking loved it. But I got the best experience because I did go into it believing it was all real. I feel like there's films that are perfect for their time period. Like the people who went and saw Star Wars for the first time in the movie theater had an experience that no one else afterwards ever got. So this was a new concept for everybody. And so for the first group of people to go in watching this believing it was real is no longer possible, because now it's such a huge genre. Everybody knows about those kind of movies. But
I'm glad you mentioned that kind of special feeling. Like, I know a lot of people don't really care for this film. I personally love this film. And it's one of those things that created a feeling like it's a piece of art that only comes around like once every 10, 20 years or something. Like there was just so much hype and so much mystique. I guess a lot like Paranormal Activity did and stuff like that, which I didn't particularly care for. But like Skinamarink, I feel like kind of captured that same kind of magical feeling. Like this is the kind of film that you can only do once in this perfect fashion, like every so often.
Yeah, when you and I went and saw Skinamarink, and I felt that same thing. Like this is probably what our first wave of Blair Witch audience members were like. Like we're seeing something new. It's cool to have nothing like the first time seeing something like this, you know, until people start picking up on it and everyone starts doing it. And I think Skinamarink is similar because it was minimalist. A lot of people can copy it, and that's the same thing with the Blair Witch Project and found footage. Like it was a new concept. It was really scary, but everyone and his brother can make one now. You gotta credit the Blair Witch Project for that popularity. And actually have something really cool to share with you.
Okay.
So when they were marketing the Blair Witch Project, they made missing posters and they put them around. And this is an actual original missing poster from the original marketing campaign for the Blair Witch Project.
Awesome.
And I have
see
another.
that?
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, it's an awesome piece of history there. Stuff like this is awesome. It feels like so grassroots for a project that got so enormous.
Yeah, but you could only do that once. You know, no one had done that before, so that was genius. Now you could do it, and it's going to just seem like a copycat kind of thing.
Yeah. Everyone will look at it and go, "Oh, just like the Blair Witch did."
yeah. So it's really cool.
Really awesome.
I was on a hunt for one of these for a really long time, and on here it says go to BlairWitch.com and look up evidence and things like that. And so this was when they were first advertising the film. But I also have another interesting piece. So when the film actually came out on VHS and DVD back in the day, I have the original VHS, but I have it in a frame. But this is a boot that I made that you can watch. But basically, this is a fake documentary talking about the missing filmmakers and stuff like this. And so it's called Sticks and Stones. And you can check this out if you want to. But it's a whole documentary.
That's really cool. I've actually never heard of Sticks and Stones.
Yeah.
Our Blockbuster down the street, when it went out of business,
Uh-huh.
we may have gone to the same Blockbuster, which is really weird.
We did.
We definitely did, huh?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. I won't say where.
I won't say where either. And we probably went to the same Blockbuster when it closed to buy all the movies. Like, I remember buying Martyrs and stuff from there.
Yeah.
So I remember getting in there and going like, dude, somebody bought all the good stuff already, and it was probably you.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny. You went to Blockbuster and probably picked up all the movies when they closed that I wanted to take home.
Yeah.
Because I remember going there and spending very little money on a bunch of movies, but the quality of the movies wasn't there. But I didn't pick up this, Sticks and Stones.
Yeah, so that was just like right when the movie came out. So the movie came out in 1999, and I think it was released in like the very beginning of like late 1999, early 2000. It came out on DVD. Yeah, that was just like an exclusive thing. And there's actually a handful of different promotional things that they did. In the lore of Blair Witch Project, there was like a serial killer who killed a bunch of kids too. And there's like a documentary that I can't remember the name of it, but there's another documentary that like a pseudo documentary to kind of tie the film together to buy into this thing like, oh, this is real, this is the Blair Witch Project, this is real found footage. So
they really leaned into all the gimmicks and gags and stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I love, like, I'm a super gimmicky guy, like, hello, like, I got like rubber chickens. People like William Castle and stuff like that, who were like kings of gags and did all sorts of wacky stuff. What the Blair Witch did kind of followed in their footsteps as far as like gimmicks and theatrics of selling a product. It worked so well, it convinced, I mean, there's still people now who walk around and probably think that the Blair Witch happened.
When I was in high school, I had a friend who wasn't a horror fan at all, and I was able to convince him like that what we're watching is real. And he was like super skeptical. Yeah. And again, this is like before Wikipedia was like readily available and you had millions of YouTube videos analyzing stuff.
Right.
This is prior to all of that, and I was able to show my friend the Blair Witch Project as if it was real. And then at the very end, he's like, "Was that real?" And then I spilled the beans. But
that's so cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That's cool to see. As far as convincing the audience of a false narrative, like, it really doesn't get any better.
The thing that I want to highlight is the Blair Witch Project was a pioneer when it comes to the found footage genre, but it's not the very first found footage film. There was actually a lot of debate because Blair Witch came out in 1999. Well, in 1998, a film came out called The Last Broadcast, which is about some like internet sleuths who are really into like cryptozoology, and so they're going out and they're trying to find the Jersey Devil, and it's presented in a very similar fashion. And so a lot of people were arguing the Blair Witch Project ripped off The Last Broadcast. And then I bring this up here. There is not as many like pre-Blair Witch found footage films. There's quite a bit. None of them got the same level of attention as like the genre has now. And a lot of them back in the day were like really hard to get your hands on. And so it's really cool. It's like awesome to see these releases of the genre getting like actual mainstream attention. Mm-hmm. And so one of them is the McPherson tape. This came out in 1998, and this is a found footage like alien abduction film. And it's funny because it was a prototype film, and then this same director came out with kind of like a remake called Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County. And back in the day, Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County was super easy to find. You could find it on YouTube, you could watch it and all this kind of shit. And the McPherson tape was almost like an urban legend.
Right.
Like literally people were like, oh, I don't even know if it exists, I don't know if it's real. There was only just stills and stuff.
Yeah.
And now, as time has gone on, now you can't find Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County. It's super fucking hard to find.
Yeah, I can't find it.
Now you can get the McPherson tape on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And so I'm really interested in like Blair Witch and pre-Blair Witch when it comes to found footage.
Which I honestly don't see a reason why the McPherson tape couldn't have exploded like the Blair Witch did.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, the McPherson tape is also super impressive as far as found footage goes. Like, I like the whole stories behind that film too. Conspiracy theorists who thought they found a tape about real aliens landing and that was spreading around. Like, I heard the credits just got cut off of the film, and it was being spread around on Boots, and everyone was like, oh, what is this crazy, like, actual footage? That blew up on obviously a smaller scale, but having the theatrical run and everything like Blair Witch did just sent it skyrocketing.
Yeah, they killed it with like the poster and like all the fake pseudo documentaries and stuff. I bought it up, I ate it up.
Mm-hmm.
It was delicious.
When I finally did see them film, I was like, this movie's really scary. It's actually really scary because the dread on all the actors' faces and everything, you buy wholeheartedly, at least I did. And it's partially because they were really being antagonized by the director. Apparently there were things where they set up props and things to scare people and you couldn't see it on the film in the dark. So when actors are running around filming things, freaking out and screaming at each other, you are seeing actual panic.
It was very genius and sort of unethical how they produced that film.
Well, speaking of unethical stuff, found footage movies that came before this, Cannibal Holocaust has found footage elements. It's not a typical found footage film as we know them today.
For many people, Cannibal Holocaust is considered the very first found footage film. Its narrative is not presented entirely as found footage, but within the film, there's a pursuit to find missing footage. And so for a lot of people, they consider Cannibal Holocaust to be the very first found footage film. From the research that I've done, the very first actual film to be presented entirely as found footage is a film called 84 Charlie Mopic. I believe it's an Australian film.
I've never heard of that movie.
And it's a war film. So it's basically like a soldier recording, I guess for training purposes, like real combat. It's them trying to survive. And it's pretty crazy. So Cannibal Holocaust is probably one of my favorite films ever made. We talked about it before.
Ad nauseum, yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
We love that movie.
So you got to thank Roger Deodato because we were really, that's the launching point for the Blair Witch Project. But the interesting thing is that the directors behind the Blair Witch Project were actually confronted by people saying, well, were you influenced by Cannibal Holocaust? And they actually admitted, like, we had never even heard of Cannibal Holocaust until after we made this movie. A lot of people can have, like, similar perspectives or viewpoints on that kind of stuff. And aside from it being found footage, I really don't see any parallels.
I see very little crossover between Cannibal Holocaust and this film, so I'd always wondered if there was any influence there at all. It kind of makes sense that there was actually very little or none at all, because when you think of the two, yes, they both have found footage elements to them, but they're it's like apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Or cannibals and witches.
I think within the zeitgeist of the horror genre, I feel like the Blair Witch Project has made its mark that's on par with like Leatherface and Michael Myers and stuff like that. Like, you see the Blair Witch symbol, you fucking know what it is.
Oh, all the stuff with the sticks and everything?
Yeah.
Is like it's so cool because the movie is essentially you see nothing the entire film. And yet every time I've watched it, I've been gripped every time. Like, yeah. I'm always like, maybe this time I'll see something. But every time it makes me feel like a little kid when I watch it, nervous to see what's going to come next. And I watched it once in a room full of people. I've actually watched quite a few of these movies we're going to cover on Screen Time with audiences. And it's a lot of fun to watch. Just the dread of maybe what you can't see is actually worse than what anything they could show you. This film just encapsulates that feeling perfectly.
Yeah, it's very, like, Hitchcock-esque in that way.
Hitchcockian, if you will.
Hitchcockian. One thing that I do want to mention that's pretty obscure that audiences might be interested in 2000, not long after the Blair Witch Project came out, a film called Blackwood Evil came out. And it's a super obscure found footage film. I've been trying to get my hands on it for a long time. I did find a copy of it, and it was a person recording their computer screen. No. So it looks like fucking shit.
I bet it looks like crap.
It looks awful. But its tagline is, this ain't no witch. Yeah, if anyone has a copy of that, send it our way, that'd be fucking cool. That was one of the earliest films that was really inspired by it, but the genre really started to gain momentum after that. A lot of parodies came out and stuff. I always like.
Are we going to talk about porn parodies again?
Yeah.
Are there porn parodies for the Blair Witch?
Yeah, there's the...
I had no idea.
There's the Blair Witch Project.
The Bear what now?
The Blair Witch Project.
No way.
And then for a while there was people made like thumb thumb-themed horror films. So there was like the Scared Thumb Project or something like that. That one's fucking goofy. But yeah, there's actually quite a bit of porn parodies when it comes to... I think this is just going to be a theme within Scared Time. I was going to bring up the porn parodies.
Well, enlighten me, because that's a big blind spot for me. I don't watch a lot of old porn.
But what makes the Blair Witch Project so effective is it doesn't fucking show anything. Well, there's 2 sequels to the Blair Witch Project. There's Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, which is very 90s. I think it's fun. It does not contribute to the Blair Witch lore in like a great way. It's just a really shitty, fun 90s movie, or early 2000s film.
Sure.
But then they came out with Blair Witch, and where I feel like that film really failed is they do show the witch. I found the film to be very forgettable. Book of Shadows is more fun. It's clearly like not even a tie to it or whatever, but I really didn't like Blair Witch very much.
Didn't they do a remake? Was there a remake of the Blair Witch? Or was that the Book of Shadows thing?
I think a lot of people thought it was a remake.
Yeah, I did. I never saw
it.
It's a continuation?
It's a continuation.
I didn't even know that. There's a video game on it too, right?
Yeah, they made 3 video games.
They made 3?
Yeah. Well,
I am so far out of the loop on this movie. I'm glad we did this episode. I'm learning quite a few things. Quite a few things here.
Well, the video games are, I don't know if it's the 1700s or 1800s, where it's talking about Maryland and all of the rumors and stuff around that. So it's very old. I don't play a lot of video games, but it almost feels kind of similar to, in terms of vibe, I'm not saying it's the same, but, fuck, what is that video game?
What is it? Maybe I know it.
You do know it. It's like you're in a haunted town.
You're in a haunted town. It's like an Old West game or something?
No, it's just you're just in a fucking haunted town.
Silent Hill.
Yeah. Okay.
Boom.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
People may disagree on this comparison, but it felt very like Silent Hill-ish to me almost.
I love when things like this happen in underground cinema because this was an independently made micro-budget film.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember what the budget was for this, but it was incredibly small. And I know at least for a while, it was a film that had the biggest turnaround for any audio-video production.
Yeah.
So it actually was a record-setting movie. It not only sparked a whole bunch of found footage films after this, but actually kind of changed Hollywood in general. Because Hollywood went, whoa, there is a big audience for these cheap films. And then they started going, we can crank out a whole bunch of horror films. Cheaper productions that can be sold to general audiences were being pumped out by Hollywood left and right after this film.
Part of what makes it feel so believable is it's not following your typical story arc of like beginning, middle, and end. You're just like, what the fuck? And then it just cuts off. And so it does feel very believable that this could be real footage that you're watching. But once Hollywood got a hold of it, they want to make it as palatable for as many people as possible. So no one likes loose ends with their stories. Everything's got to be tied up in a little bow.
Yep.
Just recycle the same formula over and over and over again, where the classic Blair Witch Project ending where the camera falls off to the side. And so,
which I think does happen in the McPherson tape. Or
yeah.
Something along those lines.
Well, they did it before, so.
True.
But there's tropes that exist within every genre, you know. But once you see it enough times, it does lose its impact. Which is, I think, one of the reasons when you hear about kids now seeing the Blair Witch Project and they don't really get what the big deal was. It goes back to what we said before that you have to recognize the time period it came out in.
You had to be there.
Yeah.
You really had to be there.
You had to be there.
And lucky for me, I did get to be there.
Yeah.
We both did as kids.
Yeah. Blair Witch, kicked the doors open. A decade later, you've got Paranormal Activity, and Paranormal Activity just ripped the genre's door handles off the fucking wall and threw it down. And now there's great stuff. You've got the pseudo snuff genre that's born out of that too.
Awesome.
I wouldn't say the genre in itself is bad, but because there's so fucking much shit you have to weed through, you can get tired of it. You can get burnt out.
It's saturated for sure.
I started collecting found footage. I was like, I'm going to collect all the found footage movies. And it just got to a point where I was like, oh, there's thousands of them.
You're like, never mind.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a lot more picky about my found footage now at this point.
Oh, well, John, more thunder and lightning. You know what that means. It's time for Mr. Mac's 30-second film review.
Right on.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mr. Mac's 30-second film review. The film we're talking about today is Lucky Cerruti Freak.
Start the clock!
I'm a huge fan. I have an autographed copy of this movie. Lucky Cerruti's film Freak might be a story we've seen told a million times before, but told in a completely original way. You really should go into this movie completely blind without watching a trailer or reading a review or anything. The moment I saw Arthur Crenshaw for the first time, I realized this was a film just for me. Great effects, an interesting premise, and lots of good times lie ahead. Not to mention the director, Lucky, actually shares a birthday with my dad, which makes the movie way cooler in my opinion. This has been Mr. Mac's 30-second film review. Now let's get back to the show.
Thank you for the 30-second film review, Mr. Mac. I appreciate that. Oh my goodness. Jonathan Doe, are you seeing this?
Doesn't look like mayo.
It doesn't look like mail at all, does it? That's what I'm talking about. Thanks, Hand. We'll see you in the next episode. Well, let's see where our mail came from today. I see. Our mail today, John, came from our friend Herschel Gillis. Our friend Herschel has a very small question for us today, but a cool one. I think it'll be fun. He says, "Hello, Stephen and Jonathan. What are your takes on your early works?" Herschel wants to know what we think about our early works.
Alright, right on.
My earliest films were films I put out just on YouTube. Anybody can watch them. And objectively, they're not the strongest films, but I'm super proud of them. At the time, I actually had a really hard time finishing creative projects all the way through to fruition. So finishing my first film, El Pollo Es Loco, about a rubber chicken that went on a killing spree. Dude, that's actually a rubber chicken stunt double from that movie. I didn't even think about that till right now. That's really funny.
Came full circle.
It totally did. Full chicken circle. El Pollo Es Loco 1 and 2 are not amazingly made films, technically. At the time, I could hardly turn on a camera. But by the time I made the sequel, Revenge of the Deviled Egg, the story was a little more ambitious. I went, okay, I'm starting to show a little bit of potential in this direction. Decided to go legit with Boxcreep Films and start up my own website and put out discs on physical media. As humble as the films are, and they really are, they do have a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
I can't go, yeah, this is like Spielberg, you know, because it's clearly not. But it was a really fun time, and my friends all look back on those memories fondly as well.
I met you shortly before you really started Boxcreep Films. I had watched, I'll admit I didn't sit and watch them all the way through. But
I'm devastated.
But I
no,
did.
I thought we were friends.
Well, I watched the first one all the way through, and the second one was like a full movie, and I was like, I will give you props. That was very ambitious to make a feature-length film.
With no skill whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't have the to make a movie. It requires you to be able to look at the whole big picture. Making a movie is putting a puzzle together, and it requires being able to not only you're putting a puzzle together, you're inventing the puzzle. You need to be able to see all the individual pieces and how they work together.
You know firsthand how daunting that is.
Yeah.
It's not, you just don't just do one thing, it's a series of endeavors that make up the entire project. You are the only person, I think, in the world who can say that they've sat and watched in one go all of my films. We watched all of my films in one day, and I think you're the only person in the world who's ever done it.
You gotta put your early work on DVD.
People have been talking about that. I don't know if the world deserves that. I actually like people out there. I don't want to subject them to have to make them want that.
Well,
but enough about me. I want to know about your early works.
I graduated high school, and I really wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be a filmmaker since I was a fucking little kid. My dad worked in media, and so we had VHS tapes, blank VHS blank VHS tapes everywhere. I would steal the tapes from my dad and cover them on paper and tape them and then make fake movie titles that I wanted to make. Once I finished high school, my parents were like, you need to go to college. I was 19, I went to film school and just at my local community college, and we made 3 different shorts. So we made one called Fistful of Girlfriends, which was fun, but there was like restrictions. Like we weren't allowed to have blood and gore, so we had to get creative. There's a guy named Bruce. He's a fuck boy, and he's dating 3 different girls at once. They find out, and they systematically rip him apart. We shot it through a window, through like a curtain, so you couldn't see. You could only see the silhouette. It was really goofy and fun.
Oh, it's so awesome. Like, for not being allowed to show the violence on screen, like, it's actually pretty violent. It's pretty genius. There's just a guy going, yeah. And it's super cool, like, all in silhouette. I'm like, that's actually really clever filmmaking technique.
Yeah. And then the second film I did, which I had actually lost for, like, more than 10 years, is called Chomp. And I did cinematography for that. I was actually pretty involved, and that was another film school project we had to do, and that's a zombie film. Mm-hmm. Its narrative is very loose. It's basically like a girl fights zombies, basically.
You know what? It's got a thin premise, but the movie's sick.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I really liked it. I'm like, this is so cool.
And then my last, I dropped out. I'm a school dropout, so whatever, you know, fuck school.
I mean, all our favorite filmmakers did the same.
Yeah.
If they win it all. So.
Yeah. So my last school project I did was called A Justification for Manslaughter. And it's this creepy neighbor, and he's like stalking the neighbor's daughter, sneaking into her house and stealing her panties and stuff. And he stole her dog. It's just a bunch of crazy stuff. And he comes in and he tries to abduct her, and she fights back and she wins. I wanted to make a rape revenge film, but you can't do that in film school.
I was just going to say, it was like a rape revenge film without the rape scene.
I had that in spirit.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it's a great movie, though. I feel like for what you were allowed to do, you pushed it probably farther than you were allowed to.
Oh, yeah, we got talked to for that.
Yeah.
So I did those, and I actually recently put those out. I put out a DVD. It's called Splat, the early works of Jonathan Doe.
And it's sick. Pick it up. It's cool.
I guess. if
Definitely.
They're not amazing, but
That's a lie. It's so good. I actually really like them.
The first works of Jonathan Doe, technically, under the name Jonathan Doe, is my Carving the Cadaver trilogy, which is a shockumentary. They're not your typical like mixtape kind of thing. It's archival footage from all over the world, starting from the 1980s up to present day, of like autopsies and bombings and things like that, scored to like really atmospheric music. And that was the very first Jonathan Doe thing I ever did. It's out of print now. Only the real diehard fans got it. So if you don't got it, you're a poser.
I haven't even seen him. Am I like a super poser? I've like never seen.
Yeah, you're fake as fuck, dude.
Should just go back to making rubber chicken movies and call it a day.
Probably.
People want El Pollo Es Loco 3.
You should do it.
People talk about it. I already have a title.
What is it?
El Pollo Es Loco 3. The Cock Rises. Giving credit to where credit's due. My buddy Chris came up with the title. He's like, dude, if you ever do a part 3, it's gotta be called The Cock Rises.
Shout out to Chris.
Shout out to Chris Striano. We killed him, actually in El Pollo Es Loco 2 we killed him. Then we killed him in Vapor Green. He was actually already dead. He was a corpse in the bathtub. We pulled his brains out, which was actually one of my favorite gags I did. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But in closing here, your early work is great.
So is yours.
My early work exists. And so does Screen Time.
Yeah.
So, in closing episode 2 here, any last thoughts on the Blair Witch Project?
The Blair Witch Project rules. It's one of the best found footage films ever made, and if you don't agree, I don't care about your feedback when it comes to cinema.
I mean, there's a lot of people's opinions I respect who don't care for this movie, and you're just wrong.
I'll rephrase what I said.
Okay.
If you like found footage, then I think that there's certain films that deserve credit for how they have influenced the genre. And I think as important as Cannibal Holocaust is, as important as the Blair Witch Project is, as important as Paranormal Activity is, like, you may not like those movies, but you need to respect those movies because they paved the way and established certain characteristics of the genre that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for them.
Well, my friend, this has been a great episode, I think.
Yeah.
We don't have a very good ending for the show, but thank you all for watching Screen Time.
I scream, you scream, we all scream for screen time.
That was pretty good. Yeah, I can live with that.
Oh, that was good, dude.
Okay.
That was a great episode. Okay.